Okay, so Josh Steffler with Freedom Free for All TV. We are changevictoria.org. I'm here with John Horgan. Which riding are you?
Wandapuka.
Okay, just a couple questions. Our viewers are concerned about smart meters. Will the NDP offer a no fee or a voluntary opt-out for the smart meters?
What I've said is that we're going to ask the Utilities Commission, which was ignored by the BC Liberals, to review opt-out provisions in other jurisdictions. Quebec has an opt-out provision. California is working on that. Some of the utilities there. Connecticut and other American jurisdictions. We're going to ask the Utilities Commission what would be the most appropriate opt-out provision for British Columbia, what will the cost be, and then how do we apportion those costs.
Excellent. Also, with the issue of the party whip, if your constituents would want you to vote separately than the party, and it comes down to having to choose your party or the constituents, will you disobey the party whip?
I've always voted with my conscience. I've always voted with what I believe to be in the best interest of my constituents. At no time in the 8 years that I've been an MLA have I ever felt pressured by the whip or the party leader to do anything that wasn't consistent with what I thought was right and what I thought was in the best interest of my community.
And with climate change on everybody's mind, a lot of people are concerned about overpopulation.
Yeah.
What would the NDP do to address an overpopulation issue?
Well, certainly overpopulation is not the challenge in British Columbia that it is in other jurisdictions internationally. What we can do in focusing on climate change is expand the carbon tax to capture process emissions from the oil and gas sector. The BC Liberals excluded that. They've frozen the carbon tax. They've rejected cap and trade, and they've botched the Pacific Carbon Trust. We need real climate action. That's what the people in my community are saying, and people right across British Columbia. There will be action by British Columbians to address our emissions and drive them down by investing in transit, investing in retrofits, and putting the carbon tax in place on areas of big pollution.
And I guess final question, a lot of people are concerned about debt, and with British Columbia's debt closely reaching $2 billion, when will BC be a debt-free province?
Not for a long while. Your debt number's off by about $96 billion. If you add BC Hydro debt, if you add the debt in health authorities, the broader provincial debt is heading towards $50 billion. These are massive challenges that can't be dealt with in a 4-year term. We have to address systematically our monetary system, how we apportion our limited tax base to meet the services that people want. But we also have to look, the opposite of debt is the assets that we get for it. This institution that we're in right now, the University of Victoria, cost an enormous amount of money to build, but it's an asset that's providing services and an opportunity for growth and personal advancement to people all over this community. That's something that is priceless. As the MasterCard commercial says, there's debt and there's assets. I think the public has to look at the two of them together.
Actually, one more. Would the NDP ever consider what's known as a debt jubilee?
You'd have to...
It's like debt forgiveness. It's an ancient policy where with the monetary system that we work, essentially there's not enough money created to pay back the debt. So every cycle there would be debts forgiven. Would the NDP ever consider even looking into a debt jubilee?
We have a serious set of issues at BC Hydro. As the energy critic, I've been following the deferred debt accounts that they've got, deferral accounts, $5 billion in that, $50 billion in purchasing private power from independent power producers. That debt cannot be forgiven. That's a liability that we have as British Columbians. The challenge in managing that is ensuring that we stretch the payments over an appropriate period of time. Our economic system is founded on borrowing, and the challenge for us is to break that dependence. And the credit card mentality of younger generations, of which I used to be one, is a challenge that we have to educate people with, starting in our K-12 system. We can't continue to spend more than we have, not just in terms of the monetary system, but in terms of burning our natural resources.
Actually, I've got one more question if I can. Also, people are concerned about geoengineering, and it approaches a lot of solutions to climate change. Does the NDP have a plan for either using or banning dangerous geoengineering experiments like stratospheric aerosol spraying or other other geoengineering experiments to manipulate the climate?
Well, certainly genetically modified foods are a challenge here, and GMOs are something that my colleague Lana Popham's been working on very aggressively. But in terms of how the impacts on the climate, there was, in my opinion, a failed effort on Haida Gwaii to do just that with our marine ecology. And I'm skeptical that those are solutions that we would certainly pursue as a subnational government here in British Columbia.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Talking to you.
Cheers. Josh Steffler, wearechange.victoria.org and freedomfreeforall.com for more.